Welcome back to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today, we are taking a quiet, late-night journey across a continent. Our topic is why night trains are making a comeback in Europe. Imagine this scene. It is 10:30 at night in Vienna. You step onto a long, dark blue train. Inside, the lights are soft and warm. People roll their suitcases down the narrow corridor. You find your compartment, put your bag on the bunk bed, and open the window a little. The train begins to move. As the city lights slowly disappear, you lie down and listen to the gentle rhythm of the tracks. When you wake up, it is morning in another country. For many people, this sounds romantic or even old-fashioned. After all, we live in an age of cheap flights and high-speed trains. For years, night trains in Europe were canceled one after another. They were seen as too slow, too expensive, and no longer necessary. But now, something interesting is happening. Night trains are returning, new routes are opening, old carriages are being modernized, and passengers, especially young travelers, are coming back on board. In this episode, we will explore why night trains are making a comeback in Europe, what they are like today, and what their return tells us about travel, climate, and culture. First, let us look at a bit of background. Night trains have existed in Europe for more than a century. In the 19th and 20th centuries, sleeping cars allowed people to cross long distances in relative comfort. Business travelers could leave in the evening and arrive in another capital city in time for a morning meeting. Tourists could travel to the mountains or the seaside without losing a day. Some night trains became legendary. The Orient Express, for example, connected Paris with Istanbul and became a symbol of luxury, mystery, and international travel. In reality, most night trains were not luxurious, but they were practical. They turned travel time into sleeping time. However, starting in the 1990s and early 2000s, night trains began to disappear. Low-cost airlines made flying between European cities very cheap, at least in money, if not in emissions. High-speed daytime trains connected many major cities in just a few hours. For railway companies, night trains looked old-fashioned and unprofitable. Running a train for 12 hours at night with staff on board was expensive. As a result, many famous routes were canceled. Some countries almost completely gave up their night services. It looked as if the era of the night train was over. So, what changed? Why are they returning now? There are several reasons, and they all connect to bigger changes in society. The first reason is environmental awareness. In recent years, many Europeans have become more conscious of their carbon footprint. They know that flying produces significantly more CO2 emissions than traveling by train. Some people have even adopted the idea of flight shame, the feeling of guilt about taking unnecessary flights. For these travelers, night trains offer an attractive solution. They allow long-distance journeys with a much lower environmental cost. A single night train can replace several planes, and rail companies are happy to use this in their marketing. The second reason is comfort and experience. While flying might be fast, it is rarely pleasant. You have to arrive at the airport early, stand in security lines, wait at the gate, and sit in a cramped seat. When you land, you still need to travel into the city. On a night train, you usually board in the city center and arrive in another city center. You have a bed or at least a reclining seat and space to move around. You can read, talk quietly, or just watch the dark landscape pass by. For many people, this slower, more human rhythm feels attractive, even in a busy world. The third reason is practical. Night trains save time in a different way. Instead of spending your waking hours traveling, you sleep while you move. If you get on a train at 9 p.m. and arrive at 7 a.m., you have not lost a workday or a day of sightseeing. You simply replaced a night in a hotel with a night on the train. Of course, this only works if the train is comfortable enough and runs on time. But when it works well, it can be surprisingly efficient. The fourth reason is political and economic support. Some European governments have started to see night trains as part of the solution to climate change and as a symbol of European connection. They are willing to subsidize certain routes or cooperate across borders. Austria, for example, has invested heavily in its Nightjet brand, run by the Austrian Federal Railways. Nightjet trains now connect cities from Vienna and Munich to Paris, Brussels, Rome, Amsterdam, and even Hamburg. Other companies, including new private operators, are also entering the market. Now, let us talk about what a modern European night train looks and feels like. When you board a night train today, you generally have three main options: a seat, a couchette, or a sleeper. A seat is the cheapest option. It looks like a regular train carriage, with rows of seats that may recline slightly. Spending the night there can be uncomfortable, especially if the train is full or noisy. It is similar to sleeping on an overnight bus. A couchette is a more basic sleeping compartment. Usually there are 4 or 6 bunks in one compartment. During the day, the bunks can be folded into seats. At night, they are made up as simple beds with sheets and blankets. You share the compartment with other passengers, who might be strangers. There is not much privacy, but there is a sense of shared journey. A sleeper compartment is more comfortable and more expensive. Depending on the car, you might share with 1 or 2 people or book the whole compartment for yourself. There are proper beds, sometimes a small sink, and in some cases even a private shower and toilet. Staff members, often called attendants, help you with check-in, provide breakfast, and wake you up before arrival. Night trains usually have a quiet, dim atmosphere. The corridors are narrow, and the sound of the tracks is constant but calming. In some trains, there is a small lounge or dining car where you can buy snacks or a light meal. In others, you need to bring your own food or buy something from a trolley. For safety, compartments can usually be locked from the inside. Luggage is stored on shelves or under the beds. While theft is not common, it is wise to keep your valuables close, because night trains are not just about transportation, but also about experience. The people you meet on board can be part of the story. You might share a couchette with a family on holiday, a student going to Erasmus exchange, a worker commuting between countries, or a tourist traveling slowly across the continent. Now, let us consider some challenges. If night trains are so attractive, why do we not see them everywhere? One major challenge is infrastructure. Night trains travel long distances across different countries, with different rail systems and priorities. They need train paths, which are the time slots when they are allowed to use the tracks. At night, freight trains also want to use the same lines, so there is competition for capacity. Another challenge is cost. Night trains require specialized carriages that include beds, bathrooms, and sometimes additional security features. These carriages are more expensive to buy and maintain than regular seats. In addition, staff need to work overnight shifts. All this makes it hard to offer very cheap tickets. There is also the issue of speed. Night trains cannot simply be the same as daytime high-speed trains with beds added. They need to be timed so that passengers can sleep long enough and arrive in the morning. That often means they travel more slowly than the maximum possible speed. Finally, passenger expectations can be difficult to manage. Some people imagine a night train as a luxurious hotel on rails, like in old movies. Others expect it to be as cheap as a budget flight. The reality lies somewhere in the middle. Modern night trains are usually clean and reasonably comfortable, but they are not 5-star hotels. Despite these challenges, there are clear signs of growth. More European cities are being connected by overnight routes. New projects are being announced, for example, lines linking Central Europe with Scandinavia, or connecting more southern destinations like Barcelona and Lisbon to the wider network. There is also innovation in design. Some companies are ordering new sleeping cars with flexible layouts. These can be easily changed from daytime seating to nighttime bunks. Some designs include pod-style beds with privacy screens, USB chargers, and individual lights, combining the concept of a hostel with the comfort of a train. Digital technology is also helping. Online booking platforms now allow travelers to compare different night train options, choose specific compartments, and check real-time information. This makes night trains more accessible to international visitors who do not speak the local language. For English learners, night trains offer an interesting cultural window into Europe. They show how Europeans think about distance, borders, and the environment. A journey from Berlin to Brussels, for example, may involve German, Dutch, and French languages, all overheard in the corridor of a single train. Let us think about what the comeback of night trains tells us about the future of travel. First, it suggests that travelers are willing to slow down, at least sometimes. Instead of always choosing the fastest possible option, some people are now choosing the most meaningful one. They want travel to be part of the holiday, not just a necessary step between two places. Second, it shows that climate-conscious choices can still be attractive. Night trains are not a punishment for people who feel guilty about flying. They can be genuinely enjoyable. You fall asleep in one culture and wake up in another, without the stress of airports. Third, it illustrates how old ideas can return in new forms. The basic concept of a night train has not changed. You sleep while you travel, but the reasons people choose it and the technology inside the carriages are different today. Of course, night trains will not replace all flights or all high-speed trains. They are part of a wider mix of transport options. For very short distances, a regional train or a bus might make more sense. For very long distances, such as between continents, flying will probably remain necessary. However, within Europe, for journeys of about 800 to 1,500 kilometers, night trains can be a strong alternative. They are especially useful when cities are too far apart for a comfortable day trip, but not so far that the journey would be unbearable overnight. Now, imagine again that you are stepping onto a night train. This time, perhaps you know a little more about what is happening behind the scenes, the political decisions, the environmental arguments, the economic calculations, and the cultural meanings. You put your bag down and check your ticket. It shows your carriage, your bed number, and your destination. Outside, the platform is still noisy and bright. People say goodbye, take photos, and call last messages into their phones. Then the whistle blows. The doors close with a soft click. The train moves slowly at first, then faster, until the station is far behind you. You change from your shoes into socks, pull the curtain, and lie down. Through the window, you can see small towns, occasional lights, and long stretches of darkness. Somewhere in the corridor, you hear quiet voices in different languages and the rolling sound of wheels on rails. In a world that often feels rushed and fragmented, there is something special about this kind of journey. For one night, you share a moving space with strangers, all going in the same direction. When you wake up, you will be in a new place, ready to step out into another city, another language, another morning. Before we finish, let us review a few key ideas from this episode. Night trains in Europe were once declining, but they are now making a comeback. This return is driven by environmental concerns, a desire for more comfortable and meaningful travel, practical time saving during sleep, and new political and economic support. Modern night trains offer different levels of comfort: seats, couchettes, and sleeper compartments. They face challenges, including costs, infrastructure, and passenger expectations. However, new routes and designs show that rail companies see a future for overnight train travel. Above all, the revival of night trains reflects a larger shift towards more sustainable and experiential ways of moving across the continent. If you ever have the chance to take a night train in Europe, you might discover that the journey itself becomes one of your strongest memories. You have been listening to Kuma English Listening Hub. Thank you for joining this journey into the world of European night trains. See you in the next episode.